What would happen if the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs struck today?
All the plant life, gone. All the animals, gone. All the humans, gone. The buildings, gone. Everything, gone.
Small impacts are happening all the time.
About once a year, there's an event in the upper atmosphere about the level of an atomic bomb.
Can technology save us? Or are we destined to suffer the same fate as the dinosaurs?
We're going to be living that kind of Mad Max existence.
Most of us can't exist in a Stone Age setting anymore. I certainly couldn't.
Will mankind survive the next mass extinction? On Animal Armageddon. The voice of the dead sound like a distant torrent's fall. Lord Byron, 1821. Imagine coming home one night, turning your television on, and seeing this on the evening news.
Scientists estimate the asteroid to be 6 miles in diameter. That's roughly the same estimate
to be 6 miles wide, with a 99% probability of striking the Earth. If and when...
A flood of refugees is evacuating the East Coast tonight.
This might seem like science fiction, but one day it will be real. Our solar system is swarming with asteroids. As recently as March 2009, we narrowly missed getting hit by a 200-foot wide killer. That's big enough to cause an explosion equivalent to a thermonuclear bomb.
Most of them are well behaved, but they get perturbed by the gravity of big planets, especially Jupiter, and in our case become Earth crossing, and some hit us.
The scars are all around us. 800 square miles of forest leveled by an impact in Siberia in 1908. In Arizona, a meteor crater from an impact 50,000 years ago. And in Mexico, the most catastrophic impact of all created a massive crater 65 million years ago and completely destroyed the reign of the dinosaurs in less than 12 months. Scientists call this impact the KT mass extinction.
We now know that the asteroid hit in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. There's a 100-mile diameter crater there. It blew up a huge dust cloud, threw material up into space, and it came back down at incredible velocity.
The discovery of this impact in 1980 completely changed the way scientists view our world.
This is an example of one of these paradigm changes where how we look at how the world works radically changes. That infiltrated not just through science, but into culture. Deep Impact, Armageddon, both of these grew out of conferences, some of which I went to, where representatives went, listened, saw what it did to the past world, and said, what happens if it hits our world? How do we deal with it?
Would the human race be destroyed if the same thing happened? Would any trace of our civilization be left behind? We know it will happen sometime. It is inescapable. In the not-too-distant future, an asteroid is detected moving across the night sky. At first, it is simply named and cataloged, alongside the thousands of other asteroids in our solar system. But once the asteroid's path is predicted, a grim realization spreads among the scientific community. The asteroid is headed for Earth. The knowledge is kept secret at first, as scientists make more accurate observations of the asteroid's orbit. But soon, the news breaks. Over the next several days, all of mankind learns that the entirety of life on Earth, species, all of this could be gone in an instant.
Well, the prediction that we will be hit and that it's not a false alarm is going to be very much equivalent to the very stages that one goes through when told that you have a fatal disease and you only have X months to live. I mean, we go through these many stages of denial and anger, and sooner or later, perhaps acceptance.
Unlike humans, the dinosaurs lacked the intelligence to know what was going to happen to them, so they couldn't prepare for it. But we can. Science provides a detailed understanding of everything that's coming.
We can actually estimate the average number of people per event that would die, and based on that, we can estimate what we would need to do about it. How many resources should we spend on this problem? How does it compare to other risks?
But will that give us the edge to survive? In the KT extinction, the survivors were small, with an ability to burrow into the mud to wait out the storm. To survive this modern-day asteroid apocalypse, mankind will have to do the same. A massive effort is launched to build fortified bunkers deep underground.
During the Cold War, there were lots and lots of civil defense shelters that were built to protect people from nuclear bombs. And these sorts of things are probably going to be put into place everywhere. And there's going to be some hard decisions that are going to have to be made about how many people can be saved and how much they can bring with them. Those people that go underground are going to need food and water for a long time.
How are you going to have temporary housing for billions of people? How are you going to get food and sanitation? We're going to have to mobilize in a way that's obviously never been done, but maybe it's impossible to do.
Scientists determined that the enemy originated in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. A deep space collision kicked it our way. The rock itself is nearly 6 miles wide, the same estimated size of the asteroid that killed off the dinosaurs. As reality sinks in, families across the world prepare in their own unique ways. Breaking the news to children and loved ones is difficult. You'd think we'd have the technology to change the asteroid's course or blow it up in outer space. But as of now, that's still the stuff of movies. This is an enemy that can't be conquered. With 7 months left, scientists try to pinpoint the impact site.
There's always uncertainty in measurements. Astronomers don't have perfect resolution. So there's a little bit of uncertainty. So one strategy that's been suggested is to actually put a transponder on the asteroid, an instrument that's kind of like GPS that can tell us exactly where it is, and that would actually reduce the uncertainty.
A NASA transponder is launched. After a complex rendezvous with a speeding asteroid, it touches down. Using solar panels for energy, the transponder begins beaming its coordinates back to Earth. A precise measurement of the asteroid's path is plotted. The target is one of the most heavily populated areas in the world, New York City. In the months leading up to impact, government agencies worked furiously to evacuate the eastern seaboard of the United States. There are over 150 million people living on or near the coast. All of them must be moved west. Horrendous traffic jams snarl every roadway, leading inland for months on end. The logistics are a nightmare. How do you prepare for the end of life as we know it? The final week before the asteroid impact arrives, the mood around the world is increasingly schizophrenic. In some major cities, protesters take to the streets, charging that the world's governments aren't doing enough to avert the disaster. Others, resigned to death, try to enjoy a peaceful final week of their lives. But no one can escape the doomsday clock, steadily ticking down to oblivion. The final hours and minutes wind down. The asteroid, a 6-mile-wide killer flying 10 times faster than a bullet, covers the last stretch in the blink of an eye. In an instant, everything changes.
It would be blinding when an asteroid comes into the Earth's atmosphere. It is coming so fast that it lights up brighter than the sun.
This enormous wall of superheated air and rock material. That's the most dangerous aspect of this thing. Is this big heat pulse coming out that will burn any flesh, any material, any tree, any building, just obliterated on the way out.
New York City is completely annihilated. The collision is so violent that in 2 seconds, the 5 boroughs are pounded into a hole 40 miles deep. All of this rock and debris, crushed and heated by the violent collision, explodes with the energy of 100 million hydrogen bombs.
All this debris that's being launched out of the crater, that's also moving through the atmosphere at such high speeds that it's glowing, and it's glowing very brightly and incandescently.
Beneath a colossal mushroom cloud, a new killer speeds outward from ground zero, a shockwave of vaporized rock. The same thing happened when the asteroid hit the Yucatan 65 million years ago. Scientists believe a wall of superheated rock vapor rushed to the northwest following the impact. Any living animal caught in the open, including the dinosaurs, were burned alive. Now, everything within a 500-mile radius of New York, from Roanoke to Cleveland to Quebec, is demolished by this shock wave. The 2,000-degree wall of flame rips through the countryside twice as fast as a tornado. Almost everything in its path is completely obliterated.
You have a much better chance if you can be in not straight line from this thing, because this wave of energy is just going to hug the ground and go over it. It might be pushed up over a hill, and underneath it, you might be able to survive underneath this thing. But flat line of sight between you and that impact is a dead zone.
It will take 1 hour for the shock wave to cool and dissipate, but there will be no respite. A disastrous ripple effect is already sweeping the globe. It's just 1 minute after impact. Another beautiful sunset for those on the other side of the world in Asia and Australia. But everyone on the surface world is doomed to become a casualty in this all-out war on humanity. Back in the northeast United States, just behind the shock wave, an immense earthquake spreads outward, rumbling through the Earth's crust in all directions.
An impact of this scale is so energetic, a compression wave would go all the way through the Earth and would cause a lot of ground motion. It would cause basically what would appear to be a global earthquake. So the entire surface of the Earth would be shaking.
It is believed the asteroid in the dinosaurs' time generated a magnitude 13 earthquake. But since there were no structures to be toppled, the shaking would have been terrifying, but not particularly lethal. In this modern-day disaster, older buildings all over the world topple to the ground, causing mass death and casualties. Only modern construction techniques ensure some remain standing. For the world outside of the northeastern U.S., this earthquake is the first great challenge to their survival. Within an hour, no place is untouched by the impact. The entire northeast United States is shrouded in the most colossal mushroom cloud the Earth has ever known. And it's still just the beginning. The deadliest episode of the dinosaur extinction wasn't the initial explosion. It was the chain reaction that followed.
The aerodynamic forces on them actually exceeds their strength. They start to fall apart, and because they're moving so fast, they explode in the atmosphere.
Scientists knew such airbursts would occur based on investigation of a similar event over Tunguska, Siberia in 1908.
There was a big explosion in the size of a large nuclear explosion. It created a shock wave that blew down trees over an area of something like 800 square miles. And we've been modeling that, trying to understand the physics behind how that happened. And I think that a large impact would create lots of secondary impacts.
4 hours after the impact, the destruction of New York and the surrounding countryside pales in comparison to what is about to happen.
Think of the amount of rock, 120 miles, a cavity, a mile deep. That amount of material gets thrown up in space. All of it, from large rock size to dust particles.
Trillions upon trillions of fiery rocks and debris fall to Earth. A global firestorm that superheats the air like an oven. 65 million years ago, scientists estimate temperatures may have risen 500 to 1,000 degrees in a matter of hours. Forests burned to the ground. Fire was everywhere. It was the most destructive episode of the dinosaur extinction.
The entire Earth's forests are thought to have burned at the end of the Cretaceous. That's what we have to look forward to. Burn down North America from stem to stern, from west to east, east to west, it's gone.
All the power plants burn, the coal refineries burn, there's no gasoline anymore. Your entire infrastructure, all the cities are burned down.
6 hours after impact, much of the world